want to talk about a few other subjects as well. I'm going to be getting a dry erase board. I'm going to be, once I get a little bit more situated over the next 30 days, 3 to 4 weeks, I'm going to make sure that I can, if there's anything, I don't know who the investigators are, I don't know who's putting what together. They have a college degree, some of them don't, some of them I think just maybe doing whatever to put my mother together and her family. You're going to have to mention something to me or tell me something, and I'll do my best to draw any evidence and more evidence and timelines to what had happened. Otherwise, for the most part, I think I rounded off pretty much everything that I can think of. But I say this because from what my point of view is that the police department and lawyers and detectives, they really can't trust necessarily everything anyone ever says. That's why they put investigation things together, and there's a certain way you can put clues and use a divider to be able to say, okay, well, this person was here and this person said that, and there's no way that this person would have known. Whatever it is they do this situation with. For the most part, this will all be for my family. If there's anything else that's aside from my family that needs to be told or needs me to write pictures or draw, I'm more than willing to do it. I'm 100% more than willing to do it, but I don't know what it is that can help and inform. And then with this evidence, you can do whatever you want with it. You can question other people, look into other things, and figure out what's going on. But other than that, there's some other video topics that I want to talk about, but at times I get really scared and nervous because I don't necessarily know who can actually watch these videos. And I say that because it could be family members, like my uncle or aunts, and I say something that they don't like, and then they're eventually going to come after me for it, and then it makes things even much more worse. So I say this because I do really hope for the best. There isn't really too many other drawings I'm going to be doing it, but I am going to get a dry erase board and kind of time out and give more explanations to what had happened, because I think that I very vividly feel that something bad has happened in front of me, and he is an institution of some sort of nursing home care. And I have been completely extracted from this. Now, because Ken Cooper is a detective and Sarah Cooper maliciously cutthroated my mother in this whole situation, no one in this world can go against a detective and police officer, and not against everything that happened in the past. You're not. In fact, it's not you're not, just that you're not. It's impossible because the time's already passed. They did the damage that they did, and the president is not going to brush this off. He's going to let it's so profound to me that they know what's going to happen if I walk into a room and I see Frankie. The crying they're saving, just like my deceased sister. So I'm just going to roll with everything that I have to go with, because I have no choice. So I say this in honor of my brother, of the 10 homosexual rapes that he experienced. 12. If these other two guys did, which I very confidently do, which will make it 12 fully grown men that sexually penetrated my brother. 10 confirmed that penetrated my brother, and 10 confirmed that penetrated my brother, and 2 that could have just given also oral sex. Which I don't know if you want to consider oral sex of a child to an adult, of a homosexual, if you would consider that rape as well. I do, but there's nothing more that I could ever explain. The police department knew about this from the minute that it started, and they're going to. We understand that you have hundreds of kids that this happens to. I don't think in any of the Child Protective Services cases is it extremely rare for 10 to 12 fully grown men to rape a child from the age of 4 to 5 to 14 years old. and that's only for what I can count for. If the 12 are confirmed, and you want to consider oral sex of what had happened to Frankie, 12 fully grown men is raped, then that's 12. But I know the number has to be higher than that, because when I was 5 years old and got raped with my uncle with Frankie, I was 5 years old and Frankie was 9 to 8 years old. Is it possible that there was someone else between the ages of 4 years old to 9 years old where there was at least one other person? It is very likely, because of my mother's circumstances and vulnerability and the structure of our family and what my mother needed to do to survive. And I say this because President Barack Obama is directly involved. I don't think I'm ever going to believe in God more than when I look at Frankie. Nothing will ever make me believe in God more, because the punishment, there was no justice. There was no justice. It was party for head crack at 97.9 The Beat, getting his own TV show. Keynote, traveling around the world with Bodega Brothers, meeting celebrities. This isn't a magnitude that is, I just have to believe in God, and I have to, there's no other more moment that I will probably believe, other than my own death and diagnosis of terminal disease, than looking at Frankie knowing that he's debilitated for the rest of his life. I picked up the phone yesterday or earlier this morning, and it sounded like Frankie picked up the phone and he was trying to say my name, and he was trying to say, "Hey, Hector?" Like, it sounded like him, and then they transferred the phone to someone else. And the way that I understand those types of symptoms, the first things that I thought in my mind is that Frankie's sitting in there in a rehabilitation nursing home for the rest of his life, and he's having the best of care, and they're helping him, and they're recovering whatever quality life that he is able to retain. One of the things he wanted to do and they wanted to share is he may be able to say my name and say, "Hey, Hector." And I think that is loving and kind, but they're not letting me know that it's him. It sounded just like Frankie over the phone. But I say this because no one, I believe, understands more than I do the trauma of what my mother's mindset had to be and what she was going through. It is not her fault. You don't understand how malicious Kenneth, Ken, Sarah did this by shooting out as many people as they could, knowing what was going to happen and what did happen. I feel more than anything, it's like going to have to shoot a 12-gauge shotgun directly into my brother Frankie's face when I have to just say it's okay. It's just the way life happens, and Jesus through Christ is going to fix all of us through Sarah, Kenneth at the radio station, Head Crack, and Ken Cooper, the police hero. And I'm fully content. I'm fully accepted. I fully know that this is the new standard. And I couldn't think probably many more worse curses that I could think of, because this brings a huge complication of problems to many different circumstances. My uncles, my aunts who want to stay involved, I don't trust any of them. I mean, I'm telling you right now, like, even when I was talking to my mom's twin, I know that's not my mom. And her mindset is like a dog. She's being obedient to what these people are doing. And I think that the reason they're doing this is to keep the boundaries to what is hers, her personal life, my personal life, and to just keep it safe that way. And that's what I think is why this was going on. But there's nothing that you would probably be able to convince me to tell me that Frankie's perfectly fine in a mental state. Nothing. The functions of his homosexuality, of given my brother is gay, and how he behaved, he won't be able to have a normal. That's fine if, I don't hate gay people for being gay. That's fine if they have sex with other men and they have intimacy with other men. That's what they want, and that's what they are and what they want to do. But what I'm trying to say is that he couldn't have a normal relationship with another man. He could with a partner. He could absolutely not. You can't go through 10, 12 homosexual rates and think that that's not going to affect you. It's impossible. And my mother, the fact that Ken and Sarah were going to watch me die is a kick in the face, fuck in the ass, and toward my mother. Because Ken and Sarah Cooper knew about it the whole time, the minute that Miguel raped Frankie. And Kenneth knew about it after he brought it up in ways like secret messages or like secret hints to see what I knew or how I behaved. I want to take all the lie detector tests to provide that I'm telling you the truth and that I'm not running from this. I did not run and lie and manipulate. I'm willing to take any type of lie detectors, anything to put the truth to this, but it corners me in a position in life to say nothing ever is counted because Hector could be lying. And he waited all this time to get to the money and fame and all this other shit, and that's not the truth. But how can you prove that? And that's what bothers me so much. Because when I then start saying, well, my mom told me this, well, you should have figured it out. Didn't you get raped with Frankie? No, I told you. When we first went, I talked about it with my mother, and my mother would deny the situation, saying she would tell me about me and Frankie being raped. And she said this one time at a doctor's office, and I remember just having flashbacks of it. And that's all I remember. Like when Frankie got raped by my uncle Johnny in Houston, all I do is remember the smell. My dad knew that it happened because I talked about that me, my mom, and Frankie, and Julian. Was Julian born? Yeah, Julian was born by that time. And Julian, we all went to the house. My dad stormed off in a hurry, pissed off at his brother, but never confronted and saying he raped, and we just went away. We just left and left that alone. So my dad didn't call the police, but my dad stormed off in a rage that he knew that he had touched his son. He didn't want to say anything. He didn't say anything. Hurry up and get in the car now. Didn't look back. And I remember my dad pulling away saying, he goes, yeah, I'm going to give you something, or I'm going to say something like I'm going to shoot him, or you think you're lucky I don't give him a shotgun or something like that. Now, we had to leave to retain that. We're in Houston, we're a family, but I think it's important for me to say something about this circumstances because I care for my brother's life, and I love my brother Frankie with all honor and respect, to understand that it's so hard to come to terms that there's no validity to what I have to say. And I want to be able to prove this just that I know, like it's on camera, that this is so solid. I'm not lying to you. I didn't know like when I smell this, there's no confirmation Frankie had been raped. My mother's also not saying anything, but she's scared in the car and we're driving away. Like, okay, you're fine, but she didn't say that, and she's not mad at us. My mom has to get up and run as well. There's no confirmation about it. And Uncle Johnny has a daughter that showed up there. I don't know who she is, but there was 2 kids you might want to look into that also could have been raped. She said that she was my Uncle Johnny's daughter. And I remember she was like 30 or 35 years old. And she came over like, I would say, she was a heterosexual woman, 100%. She was. I'm almost 100% she was. She was a brunette, about shoulder-length hair, not really thick, fat, but she had some thickness to her, and brown eyes. She didn't know how to speak Spanish. She spoke very well English, seemed very educated, and she had 2 little kids. And you might want to go look into this. There was a little kid that she brought over, a cute little kid with thick Coke bottle glasses. And she had another little brother that I remember was like 3 or 4 years older, and he was about 8 years old or 9 years old. He was about the age of We went to Houston when I was 7, and Frankie was like 10 or 11. And this little kid, used to take swimming classes because he would go swimming in the classes, and then they would come over to the house in Houston where we were staying at, and we were there for about 3 weeks. We were there for almost a month. We were there for at least, I would say, 15 to 21 days. We were there for 2 weeks, and she showed up, and I remember they ordered pizza, and this lady would talk to my mom and Frankie and my dad for a very long time. And they brought these 2 kids over, and I would look into this. Whoever it is that could do this investigation, there's 2 other little kids. You might want to look into whether this guy, Johnny, my uncle, my dad's brother, Raymond Palomo, his name is John Palomo, raped these little 2 kids as well. And they'd be able to tell you more of the evidence of what I'm telling you is true, because there's no pictures, no evidence. But if you look at this kid, one of them used to be an incredible swimmer. But I wanted to say this because if any of those 2 kids got raped or touched by this guy, bingo. That's your evidence percentage that I'm telling you the truth that this happened. Now, I talked about that whenever whenever I smelled, I said, what is that smell? And I talked about my uncle being in the living room, and he said, he did that to me when my dad looked away. And then he was acting like predatory behavior. So there's no evidence that you can prove that ever happened, unless my mother confirms with it. And I don't think my mother will be able to say that she did because of fear. It's all about survival. If someone harms you, get up and leave. Get up and leave, safety. I don't care. You may have been raped, but you're alive and you're away from the harm. And that's the way that it was. It because of intimidation and fear. It is. Because everyone knew that my mother was so poorly educated, they saw her as a dumbass. And that's how Ken behaved toward her, and that's how Sarah especially did. But as far as anything goes, look and find these 2 little kids. This little kid, they both had brown hair. She never brought her husband. I'm going to say she was going through a divorce maybe at the time. She seemed very well dressed. She seemed like an office lady, like a very good secretary. She wore blue jeans all the time, nice like kind of Christmas type of sweater. She spoke very nice. And they used to go to church a lot. And I remember when we were kids, you can ask these 2 kids this. If you can also find evidence that if they smelt anything or saw anything suspicious with Frankie and this Uncle Johnny in Houston. Now, the reason I say this is because one of the days that they were there, they showed up like 4 days out of the week, and to come play with us, to have other kids to play, and we would go play video games in the room. And they had a Sega Genesis, and he brought over a bunch of games. And the little kid was always very nice, but I don't know what he did. He said, like, no, I don't want you playing this game. Or he said something like that, either to me or Frankie or something. And her mom heard that, and she was in the kitchen, and she came over, and I remember this, she spanked the kid in front of me, saying, no, you learn to share. You learn to share with all the other kids, okay? Those kids can play those games as much as anyone else can, okay? Don't you ever tell them they can't ever play those games. They can play video games if they want to, okay? And that's what she did. So if you find this lady and you find that little boy that used to go to swimming classes, you'll be able to verify this story with you. There was also a little kid that was like 4 years old. He was like 3 years old. He had like big Coke bottle glasses. He looked really nerdy. He looked like a Revenge of the Nerds kind of like kid. And they both had brown eyes and hazel eyes. So the little kid had hazel eyes. The older kid that was like 7, 8 years old, used to go to swimming classes, then show up to the house. He had like dark brown eyes, but they both all had brown hair. Real skinny kids. This kid was real skinny, but skinny like I was. But they were well taken care of. Like their mom was a mom. So I wanted to say this because there's no evidence to prove this. Look for those 2 kids and see if that woman is still alive. this woman, I remember, the way that she was behaving inside that house looked suspicious toward Uncle Johnny and what was going on. Because she started showing up a whole bunch of times. Like, she didn't just come visit the kids. She didn't just come visit once. They weren't showing up to that house all the time. To my understanding, it was just because we were there. I don't know if they were nervous because they thought maybe we were going to try to get an inheritance. Maybe my mom was using my dad. I don't know what the situation, but that woman said that. She said that she had. She was the daughter, or Uncle Johnny said that was her daughter. So I wanted to say something about this. It's very difficult for me in this process because there's no other evidence that I can provide, but I think it's worth my try to say that did this happen. I tried looking on the address on Houston on Google, and all I know that the house that Uncle Johnny used to own used to be next to a Kroger grocery store, and I remember it wasn't next to it because they lived in like a cul-de-sac kind of, and like 2-3 streets over, like if you went down, there was like, if you went down like 300 yards, there was a highway, and then there was a parking lot and like a Kroger grocery store, and there was palm trees. But my Uncle Johnny's house, they lived in a cul-de-sac, so I think it was important for me to say something about this. Even though there's nothing that can be done about it anymore, it's hard to dismiss life like that, especially when it's my brother, because everything is over. Everything will work in the patterns of the way that it is. It came from alt-reading selfishness. Frankie dealt with that to save me. Frankie dealt with that to give that to my mother. And Sarah Cooper came with Kenneth and Ken Cooper and took everything with their family and persecuted. So, as much as I want to keep blaming the finger, I can't say anything about the situation. Maybe it would have been worse if they didn't get involved. Very likely. But, like I said, there's no way that anybody could tell me I'm not going to feel ever confident that Frankie's okay, he's with his family, he's working out. He's not going to. I don't believe it. There's no way that he mentally can. He never got counseling services. He can't. The way that he behaved, because he talked about sexual topics around me a couple of times. And the way that he talked about it, when he talked about girls, like when he came from the Navy, it's kind of terrorizing what could have been, what sickening behavior, sexual things could have generated from him that ended up maybe someone else, another sick homosexual wanted to take advantage of. I'm not saying that my brother is sick homosexual, but the trauma of that sexual abuse, and there's some really, just like there are in women that do some really disgusting shit, pornos and sex acts, just like guys do, or straight men, there's also what homosexuals do. And they'll take advantage of that. So it's to protect his sexuality for whatever's worth. But as far as anything goes with this, you're going to have to tell me whatever it is. If not, then I feel like I covered most of the ground of everything. If there's anything that's outside of my family to draw evidence of what opinions are, then someone would have to just basically kind of tell me or get an idea of maybe some things. But I'll do my best to think that maybe that's what you want. You could do with whatever evidence that you want. But that's probably something that I don't know if I talked about before. I talked about the 2 kids in Houston and with that woman that was his daughter. But I didn't say, you go ask them. Go find these 2 kids and that woman if they're still alive. You may have been able to do that way before I made this video. And, both of them are dead now. They've been dead for a long time. you know, the way that my brother behaved when he was being raped and the way that he was being obedient toward it is unbelievably crazy. He is completely confining to this. Like the way that he told me not to say anything when I said, "What is that smell?" And I thought the door cracked open and he was bending over the bed and the Uncle Johnny was pulling his pants down and he quickly moved, but I just saw like a portion of Frankie's like back and his upper torso and him kind of leaning forward, and he was saying, "Yeah, give me that." And Frankie was something like 7 years old, and this is what this sick, crazy guy was doing because he knew, the whole entire family knew about the first rape that had happened. And the reason I say this is because once they know the child's been victimized and is willing to give free sex, like that, they come like predators, just like they came for the money and fame for 97.9 The Beat. So, as far as anything goes with this particular situation, I feel like I've ran out of field with this. It's just a matter of days and time if I ever won't see my brother again, and accepting the loss. Me personally, my mind would go into very dark places that wanted to the people that made money off of it, got fame off of it, even other family members that didn't want to do anything. The police officers knew about this, and that's why Frankie continued to do what he did. He was experiencing harassment from school. It was so predatory to protect the homosexuals that these fire department police officers felt sorry for that son of a bitch over there. That's all they ever fucking felt sorry for. And there's no cameras to tell you, not enough evidence to tell you how my mother's being held hostage before that little girl died, to keep my mom shut up because this guy over here is the one that raped, because they don't know about the investigation. They don't know if there was any hidden cameras. What they do know is that, the rumors went around and then I just abused the girl. And then they start running their own regimens on my sister who died many years ago. Now, Michaela, I don't know if you're trained or went to school to be trained to learn these things. These are very graphic and very disturbing details. I really do hope the best for you. As me going to be talking and make more videos. Michaela, I have to say, please save yourself. Please save yourself. Protect yourself. I cannot explain this. There is so much dark forces involved that I'm scared for your life and your mental state. That's what I'm scared of, more than anything. Because they are going to do the most ingenious, smart things that you're not going to be able to figure out and do, and they already did. And it's groups and hundreds of people that were doing this. There was dozens and groups and celebrities that were doing this. So I want to say that it's crucially important for me to say this, because if Richard Murphy ever had a relationship with Frankie, that's why. And so it's hard, because if I've been extracted from my brother Frankie, even my mother who has dementia, then where does that leave me? I basically have to defend for myself and have to plead to total strangers for my safety. I can't explain to you some of the things that are going on, how dark. This is not being sexually raped by one person or two people. 12 motherfuckers are doing this shit to you. Your mind and what your existence of understanding that life is so warped and submitted. Barack Obama is directly involved. This is his glory and his laughter that he's going to be finding dating with George Bush, talking to my mom and me one day, if I live long enough. That it was just a joke. They can kill people in the execution chambers and President Barack Obama is the number one president that exonerated over 300 people that went to the penitentiary and exonerated them after just signing them off saying time served. No other president has ever done that before. So I can't because I can't believe in God more than any moment that I would probably watch and see Frankie, because there's nothing that can be done about it. Nothing at all. Because that's what he left me for Sarah Cooper. And for the president to say, guess who won the fight? For Madison and Kenneth at the radio station and shit. Because they all got their own minds. And they're going to keep pointing fingers. They're going to be smarter. They're going to be lawyers. They're going to say this is my family, not yours. I'm asking you for help, and I'm going berserk crazy asking questions beyond anything you can imagine. And I'm sizing them up as well. And they're professional liars, like interrogating people and throwing them into prison. There's no reason why they would have given me 50 tickets. Do you know why they gave me all these tickets? Because they didn't want me to say anything. The police department knew about this. Because when you're in that jail cell, who do you think can hear you cry there? Who do you think can listen to what you have to say about anybody else? You're so busy. I'm so busy being young and trying to figure out my life and get a girlfriend. I don't even have time to think about and write evidence for Frankie. Because it's time for Kenneth and Headcrack at the radio station and for Michael Jackson. But in my opinion, I don't think it ever will, because there's nothing that can be done. I don't think I'll ever experience more of a pain, because it's something that he gave me. It's something that I feel like I faulted him, that I didn't fight enough, and I wasn't smart enough. And they don't understand how much I do love my brother. Even if I had him fly from Tokyo, from Dallas, how much I did love him, and how much he did love me to take care of me. I mean, my brother pulled out his belt a couple times and hit me a couple when I was a kid. I'm not kidding you. But I wanted to say that the astounding people that were involved in this is unmatchable. The people at the karate taekwondo center, they knew about it, and they were grooming Frankie there. That's what they were, and they were protecting this motherfucker because they were grooming Frankie because they didn't know they were being nice people though, huh? Because they didn't know anything about the other 10. And it's better to keep quiet and see that he's molded the way that he is, because he isn't ever talking about that or those. So I hope this goes as easy as it is, because I just get terror. It's like a Holocaust story, an Auschwitz story, where there's nothing that you can do. There's nothing that you can do. They function in just fear. It's just terror. It's just to scare you. It's to put you in a mental state of fear. When you only function in a mental state of fear, you become very worthless and very valuable to a monkey's behavior to other people to do whatever they want to you. Your words, your emotions. I'm not the professional, but that's what I think happens. Because it happened to me. And not as extent as it could have happened to my brother. You know, the only time that I had ever seen my brother fight was when he fought Miguel. And I saw Frankie, I want to say he wasn't wearing a t-shirt. He had like a sweater on, or like a long sleeve shirt. And he had jeans on for sure. And before Miguel punched him, I don't know if he was grabbing him to throw him in the closet and rape him, but Frankie was like saying, no, get away, no, get off of me, no. And he was fighting for his life. He was fighting. And I think it's important for me to say this because their mascot, the police department, Detective Ken Cooper, and Sarah Cooper, the nurse, and was only angelic from a nun's Catholic church, is going to give everything to Madison and Ken Cooper, but as long as Hector gets stung to the scums of all diarrhea, blood, shit, ass in front of the public eye, but as long as you didn't get a good life like us, and that was the mentality and that was the intention of the mental state that they had. This was not to keep you safe, this was to keep the secret sexual life that they were living and to get the money. What money? Wasn't financial necessarily. The money to say, guess who's the hero? Guess who can deal with more? Guess what I gave to my daughter? No, guess what? No, that's what I think you deserve to make my ego feel better. The mental state keeps going into a very dark chaos in that mental state. So, Michaela, please, I have to say to save yourself. I honestly feel like to tell you that don't even try to think that my mother is going to try to help you. Her twin and her twins, they're not. My mother herself has to talk to you and you have to know my mother. I'm the last sole speaker of this. And they have so much control, the psychologists and the people that are doing this to my mom's twins. I don't blame her. She's like a monkey. She's exactly like a monkey. On command, she has no retaliation ability. She has to for the money, for what they gave to her, and to retain her life. It's not her fault. But you're not going to get this sort of glory justice in any way. Please save yourself from the heartache, pain. But I say this because it's very likely to damage your state of mind toward me and any relationship down in the future. To extreme toxicities that it may be, in my opinion, best to keep what you have with your husband or your kids if you have kids and retain that, because you're not going to get that good relationship with my mom. So you're not. I'm telling you right now, you're not. With Julian involved, and if Frankie something bad happens, and Julian wants to say, no, that's my brother, and all this other shit, because our biological father, I love you very dearly, Michaela, but the truth is that you're not a part of my life. And as much as I would want it to have been, they're going to do everything, all the strangers and everyone is going to make sure that it's disgusting, it's minimal, and its peak is it when it first happens, if it does, so they go downhill very quickly, and then that's it. Because that's what they wanted. I'm 40 years old, something you can't go back on anymore. It's difficult. It's a very entangling situation. It's hard to describe, to even think how the details of what this was entailed. But the Father, the Mother, the Holy Spirit, to keep things safe, because they're all scrambling for my mom's gold and Frankie's gold now. Just like mine for Michael Jackson. For Kenneth at the radio station head crack, police department. This was nothing about safety, love, kindness, respect, polite, dreams, to move forward with healthy relationships with family, when you should have been putting this family together. And I'm saying Michaela, whoever was putting this together, this was entirely for the gay community, LBG, that's all it was. That's all it was. Any guys that came bad that were after you, it was because they sent it toward you, because they needed you to be sabotaged, because you would be discredited from any words you have to say to Michaela. They know how to sell the men, and they know how to sell the women, because they don't ever have babies. Many of them don't have families. So, it's really bad. I'll make some other videos on some other topics.